supporting rebels will probably never become an overpowered game mechanic. Actually, it even seems to be the case that every E4 player thinks that supporting rebels is completely useless. That is not true. In this video, I'll show you the two things that everyone should use in every single EU4 game, but no one knows about it because it is disgracefully known as the most obscure game mechanic in EU4. I'm the student and I found the use for supporting rebels. So the first aspect that supporting rebels is actually very useful for is for power projection, okay? Now you see, for example, as Scotland right here, as you can see, I have only two valid rivals that I can select, so Denmark and England. Now, of course, I'm Scotland, I'm pretty small, I have like a force limit of 19,000 and almost no navy. How am I supposed to win against England or Scotland to get my power projection up, right? Most probably I would want to conquer Ireland first or something, which might take 10 years, 20 years, you know, until I can fight England or Denmark with the help of France or someone. Which means that the first 10 to 30 years, whatever how long it takes you, will be basically wasted without you being over 50 power projection and therefore without gaining +1 mana in each category. And of course those other bonuses, global trade power, morale of armies and navies, fort defense and yearly prestige, that is also all really helpful, as well as a leader without upkeep. Now you see, without fighting my rivals, it is actually very hard to get a decent amount of power projection. Because even if I send a scornful insult, for example, that of course will end up at around 13, as you can see, one from each embargo. And then of course it ticks up to long-term rivals, which actually will cap at 5 per rival, which I have only 2 rivals, so it will cap at 10, okay? So even if I had the maximum already, which of course I get only 2 yearly, but let's just say I had the maximum already, I would right now have 22 power projection. But of course the insulted rival ticks down yearly, so I will have between 10 and 20 power projection every time, right? Now I can do one interesting thing, which is sending privateers to a trade node of the rivals, such as the English Channel, for example, which you can see gives me immediately 6 power projection. But what most people don't know is that this number is capped at 10 per rival, okay? So let's just say I had insane amounts of light ships, which I don't, right? But let's just say I had like 30 light ships, okay? And I would send 15 to England, 15 to Denmark. And I would get the full 10 per rival. Even then, I would be a maximum of 42 power projection. And as I said, insulted rival ticks down. So I would end up being between 32 and 42 power projection, which is not even close to be enough to get over 50 power projection, which of course you want to increase your mana in every category, right? So now the question is, where is supporting rebels helping with that? And for that I'm just going to let 1 year pass so that you can see it only takes 1 year to do that. So we are going to see when it's done. So there we go. As you can see, I've took 13 month ticks to get to 30 spy network on each of my rivals. And that is exactly the number that you need to support rebels. Now you see the way that support rebels works is that you will have access to every single rebel type that is loading or active in the country that you spied on. Okay, so as you can see, those are all the rebel types that England has loading, but of course most of them, or all of them, as you can see, are at 0% risk of revolting. which is because there is probably no unrest, right? Now you see those rebels have different types of costs that you need to pay them, which is based on the amount of troops that they are having. As you can see, those particularists over here will have 70% infantry, 30% cavalry, but they will be of 36 regiments of size, okay? And you are literally paying the price, the recruiting price of all of those 36 regiments, which, as you can see, is super expensive, right? So, for example, the French separatists over here, they will only get 8 regiments, so I will have to only pay 70 ducats for that, which is way more reasonable, right? Now you also see that this will give me 25 power projection. And this amount of power projection, 25, is based on this cost over here, so the size of the rebels that you are supporting, compared to your national income, okay? So it seems that you need to pay around 2 years of income to get 50 power projection, and as you can see, this is like 1 year of income, and it gets me 25 power projection. And now, of course, compared to the English particularists, you can see those would give me 118 power projection. Before you think this is totally overpowered or something, this is capped at a maximum of 50. So it would be wasted money to spend that much on power projection that I only get 50 of. So I will simply go and support the French separatists over here. And for that, of course, I'll take the burger loans over here real quick. But as I said, this is 1 year of income, okay? So within 1 year, I will get that money back, and you can see this is active for 5 years, okay? So 70 ducats right there, and you can see that immediately I gain power projection, even 26, as you can see, which actually it is now active, 26 flat active for the next 5 years. Now I can of course do the same thing on Denmark. They have only the Danish noble rebels, which are a little bit more expensive of course, but you can see that I would gain 68 power projection, of course, which is capped at 50 sadly, for the price of 180 ducats. There we go. And now you can see within 1 year of gameplay I have already 94 or basically 100 power projection, because the long time rival thing is ticking up yearly. So if I wait 3 more years, I'll have 100 power projection, right? Which means that if I wait a month to the modifiers to apply, then you see that I'm now gaining a leader without upkeep, plus 1 mana in each category per month. And all of those modifiers on almost the capacity, so 10% morale of armies, 20% global trade power, 0.5 prestige, 10% fort defense. You can see this is a modifier that you want to get up as soon as possible. And I got it to 100 as Scotland without any wars in just 1 year. And now let's talk about the price, because you might think now, yeah, but this was pretty expensive, right? Is it even worth it? And I'm telling you, this is more efficient to spend it on power projection with supporting enemies, rebels, than to hire advisors. So just think about that. I just spent 180 ducats for the Denmark rebels, as well as 70 ducats for the English rebels, which makes 250 ducats. But I spent it beforehand, which is active for 5 years, okay? So it is a yearly price of 50 ducats, okay? And therefore a monthly price of 4 ducats. But of course, if I increase my income in that time, I won't pay more because I paid it beforehand, okay? You could actually basically sabotage your income. So as I did, for example, collecting over here in the English channel, and then send it back towards my home trade node, and therefore increasing my total income again. Okay, as you can see right here, I increased it by just a little bit, but you know what I mean, okay? You can actually manipulate your income so that in the month that you are supporting rebels in, you have very low income, and then therefore gaining power projection for a way lesser price than it would cost normally compared to your income, of course. So you can see it right here on the Ottoman Empire, actually, that I can support the Ottoman Particurists for 200 ducats, which is basically nothing for me, and I will get 12 power projection from them. And now if I actually decrease my income, for example, by recalling that merchant from Venice and recalling that merchant over here that I had for spy network reasons, then you see that my income will drop, my trade income will drop, as you can see right now, by 2 ducats, of course, which is like 5% of my income, right? Now if I support the same Ottoman Particurists for the same money, I will get 13 power projection. Now, of course, this is not a huge deal right now, but you notice basically what I'm talking about, right? So if I was collecting in Genoa without my main trade node and I would just not collect there anymore, half of my income would be gone and I would gain double the power projection, you know? This is how it works. But even in this situation, it is more efficient because, you know, if I hired in every category a level 1 advisor, what would it cost me? 1 ducat, right? So I would pay 3 ducats for 3 advisors, of course, and gain the same thing that this power projection does, okay? Which would cost me 3 ducats instead of 4 that I paid for the power projection. But the power projection also gives me a leader without upkeep and those insane modifiers, which, let alone the morale of armies and morale of navies modifier, is both the same modifier that you would get from an advisor, right? Global trade power is a modifier that you can't even get from an advisor, and in the early game it is even more worth it than a trade efficiency advisor, for example. Yet you even have prestige, for example, and fort defense and yearly legitimacy, so I would argue that those modifiers are all those modifiers that you gain from power projection, all of them together, are more worth it than the modifiers that you get from level 1 advisors. And I would argue that it is actually more than 1 ducat more worth, which is why I think 4 ducats for 90 power projection is more worth than 3 ducats for level 1 advisors. And of course, as I said, you can still hire level 1 advisors if you find a way to maintain them, you know. I just took loans to pay that, which is 1% loans. I'm basically paying nothing for that. So the first 5 years are basically free if you want so. And this is why supporting rebels is so valuable for power projection and for your efficient gameplay of mana generation and modifier stacking, after all. I just wanted to record the Bohemia example that I will show you in a second, but I just unpaused for 6 days, and this is an Iron Man game. You can see this. I just got a talented and ambitious daughter within the first 6 days of the game, and she's a 666 ruler. Oh man, this is actually crazy. Anyways, let's go on. And the same also works really well for Bohemia, because as you can see, you can only rival pretty big nations as Bohemia. You have 3 rivals, yes, so you can have long-term rivals. You can scornfully insult rivals, of course, for power projection and so on. You don't have ships, so you can't privateer, for example. But how will you gain 50 power projection early on? You know, you can't fight Hungary with the ally of Austria. You need to wait until they break it, which might take 10 years until he gets 15. And even then, Austria might get them as a union. You can't fight Poland that easy. He has a 466 ruler and is allied to Lithuania. You can't fight Denmark that easy. They are allied to the Teutonic Order, to Denmark, and have Sweden and Norway, of course. How will you gain 50 power projection in the first 10 years? Supporting rebels. As simple as it is. And if you don't want to get 100 power projection, you know, you don't need to pay that much. You can just spend a few ducats on like separatists that are not worth that much, as you can see, like Serbian separatists, 70 ducats. There we go. And then on Denmark, I'll just go with the Danish nobles again for 180 ducats. So basically the same price that I paid as Scotland, of course, which gives me 33 power projection. Now, of course, I'm not at 90, so that's a little bit sad, but I'm easily over 50, as you can see. I can still do embargoes and so on. And I did the same price. I just paid 4 ducats per month to get over 50 power projection. Again, it is totally worth it in my opinion. Because otherwise you would have to fight a huge war to get that. Another example is Cyprus or the Knights once they expand a little bit and get a possible rival. You know, you see, I have just one possible rival. So if I ask you right now, before you watch this video, how I would be able to get above 50 power projection, you would probably tell me the only way is to get a humiliation war or something on Karaman. And even then, a humiliation only gives 30 power projection. And also a show strength, only 30 power projection. How am I going to get over 50 power projection? Most of you probably would have said it's simply not possible, right? But it is actually possible, as you can see, just supporting rebels. Just take a few loans. There we go. I just took 7 loans. As you can see, which is only 50 ducats of debt, but I can just support the Caramanese noble rebels. I will gain, of course, the maximum of 50 power projection, and there we go. Just 1 year into the game as Cyprus, I have 60 power projection and therefore gaining +1 mana in each category, as well as more than half of those insane modifiers of morale of armies, navies, trade power, and so on. So I think after those 3 examples, you notice that this is actually a very useful mechanic to support rebels in your rivals to get power projection. And if you are able to manipulate your income for just 1 month so that the game thinks you're paying insane amounts of your income on supporting rebels, then you can even get so much power projection for so less money that it is way more worth it and way more efficient than using advisors, which you anyways can use on top of that as well. But let's just go on with the second reason why supporting rebels is actually useful. So for example, in this campaign, as you can see right here, I'm playing as the Papal State, and yeah, I've got a pretty good game going over here, as you can see. And now you see there is this one achievement that I actually don't have yet, which is called Holy Trinity. And this achievement is gained if you as the papacy own Jerusalem yourself and have Livonian Order, Teutonic Order and the Knights as marches. But of course the Teutonic Order, for example, doesn't even exist anymore, and the Livonian Order is so far away. How am I supposed to get a CB against them to vassalize them, you know? Because I won't get a CB on Lithuania, for example, either, right? So the question would be, how can you get CBs early on in 1486 already, CBs against every single nation basically that you want to have a CB on, without of course having imperialism and so on? And the answer is actually pretty easy, which is supporting rebels. You can see I can support rebels as I finished espionage ideas for a little bit cheaper. It normally costs 30, but as you can see I can support for 25, and you'll see that I can support any revolt that exists in their country, and that includes already risen up revolts. such as in this case the Catholic Zealots. And this, you can see I can just support them for 70 ducats. 70 ducats for CB is like nothing basically. So I'm just going to support them. As you can see, I supported them. And if I now, by the way, now I see their lands as well, as they are basically my allies right now. But if I wait 1 month right now, you're going to notice that I will gain a special CB. There we go, you can see support rebels Casus Belli against Livonian Order. And that way I can actually attack the Livonian Order directly, even though I don't have colonial range, don't have claims or provinces nearby them. They are literally so far away of my lands, of course, but I can still declare war on them with the CB of supporting rebels. Now let me just declare the war so that you can see how this actually works. You notice that this is literally a completely normal war. It says Papal Livonian Intervention War, but you can literally do anything you want. You can release nations, you could take provinces, but of course I have no colonial range, but you can also vassalize the nations with that. So now that you saw what I'm actually talking about, let me just explain that shortly to you in a more general way, also regarding the nations that don't have active rebels, of course. You see, any rebellion that has risen up gives the nation that is supporting them a special CB, okay? This CB is called Support Rebels. The war goal of that CB is to take the enemy's capital, and it has doubled prestige and only half of the cost for enforce rebel demands, which is a special peace option that it has. It is not a restricted CB that you can only support rebels with, but instead you can actually do anything else also that is possible, which is taking land if you have the colonial range, releasing nations, vassalizing the other nation, take money, war reps, or humiliate them, and everything else that you can think of that doesn't need a special CB or something, of course. So in the end, it is basically just a CB that you can get to do whatever you want without needing to claim their land. And I mean literally a CB against any nation that you have discovered. So for example, I'm playing as the Papal State over here. Let's say, for example, Lübeck over here would convert to the Protestant faith, which is actually pretty close to happen. And, you know, you want to convert them back, of course. I don't have a CB against them. I would have to no CB them and get like a lot of AE, as you can see, and a -2 stab hit, right? So I can't do that all the time. But I've also noticed that they have conquered lands recently, and I just built a spy network on them, and I can now support rebels. And I can of course then choose the rebels that have progressed already the furthest, which will probably be the Volgastar separatists over here. And after I supported that for just 80 ducats, it's basically nothing for me, I have now supported their rebels, and I can see their progress over here. You can see they have already 20% progress. And now I think I should talk about the progress rate. Basically, as soon as you support a rebels without any ideas or something, you have a progress rate of their rebels of 10% chance to progress each month. So for example, you can see over here the Epirot Noble Rebels, they have a 30% progress to uprising, but if you hover over that, you can see that it has a 12.8% chance to increase the progress by 10%. And that is each month, okay? So right now, if I let 1 month tick pass, it has a 12% chance to progress. And then the next month, it has another 12% chance, and so on, right? The base chance of that progress is, by supporting rebels, is 10%, which means that on average, it takes 10 months to to progress 10% towards uprising, right? And then it rises up at 100%, so it takes an average of 100 months or 8 years basically to uprise. The support rebels, of course, only lasts for 5 years, but you can of course do it twice, and then it would be, on average, it would uprise within that time of 2 times supporting them of 8 years. Okay. Now you see, I took espionage ideas, and actually espionage ideas, most of you know that by this point, it is actually at least an A tier idea group, if not an S tier, with the aggressive expansion impact, the siegeability, the advisor cost, the diplomat, and vassalization acceptance, for example, or can claim entire states and so on. But it also has rebel support efficiency plus 100%, okay? And that is the reason why it actually has a 20% chance right now to uprise on Lübeck. You saw that a second ago. Because I have the base and then it's doubled, okay? So every month that I right now let pass, it has a 20% chance plus, of course, the unrest that it has over here. So it had a like 10% chance or something already, right? So it has like around a 30% chance to uprise each month. And you can see, there we go, they're just uprised. And you can also see a very interesting thing. Lübeck just immediately did a harsh treatment on them and pushed them down to 0% again. Which you have to be aware of, that this actually can happen, which is why you might want to wait until rebels already rise up, such as in Burgundy, for example, or in Brandenburg, and then support them, because that is an easy, immediately CB, as you saw on the Livonian Order. Or otherwise you just have to wait, because eventually it costs them a lot of mill mana, of course. Eventually the AI won't be able to push them back all the time. Actually, to make it more reliable, you should then focus and pay a little bit more for bigger rebel factions, because such like rebel factions that are literally in every single province, like those heretics over here in France, or those peasants over here in Burgundy, those factions that are literally available in every single province, which often are nobles or peasants or particularists or something, you probably know that from your own experience, they cost more mill mana to push them down, to use harsh treatment on them. And actually, they often cost the maximum of 200 military mana per harsh treatment. Which means that if you support that kind of a rebel faction, then it's basically guaranteed that they cannot use harsh treatment more than once or so on them. And therefore you can basically guarantee that they will uprise in an average of 4 years if you have espionage ideas, or in an average of 8 years if you have only the basic. But that is the second thing I wanted to talk about, which is essentially not a CB against every nation, but a CB against every nation that you want to have a CB in, with just a little investment. And you get an easy CB on any nation that you want on the world. I could right now do a spy network on Persia and support the rebels. Very easy CB against them. So I hope you understand why the second thing is also a very useful thing to know in a lot of games of EU4. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you noticed right now what I meant when I said that supporting rebels is actually useful. As I just presented you, it is useful for easy power projection, and it is useful for easy casus bellis on people that are very far away that you wouldn't be able to get a CB on anyways. And we are going to see, as always, on the next Monday.